All right, for this one, we're going to travel back in time, way back to 1945, to unpack a vision that honestly laid the entire blueprint for our digital world. It's the wild story of a device that was never actually built, but somehow it ended up changing absolutely everything. I want you to just look at this for a second. This simple, humble hyperlink. Now, seriously, try to imagine your life without it. No clicking from page to page, no surfing the web. Every single piece of information would just be stuck, isolated in its own little digital box. It feels completely impossible, right? Well, the idea for this connected world we live in didn't just pop out of nowhere. It was born from a huge challenge, decades before the first personal computer was even a thing. You know, this slide really captures the insane shift in how we get our hands on knowledge. Back in 1945, everything was physical and linear. You had to go to a library, dig through a card catalog, find the actual book, and then read it from page one to the end. But today, it's networked, it's digital, it's instant. We just leap from one idea to the next, following this giant web of connections. And this massive change, it wasn't an accident. It was a very deliberate solution to a crisis that was starting to brew. And that solution came from a place you would never, ever expect. We're not talking about some Silicon Valley garage in the 90s. We're talking about the mind of a brilliant scientist right as World War II was coming to an end in 1945. And that scientist's name was Vannevar Bush. Now, during the war, this guy was an absolute giant in the scientific world. He was in charge of the work of 6,000 scientists working on top secret stuff. You know, things like advanced radar and even the atomic bomb. He was literally the guy organizing all of America's scientific power to win the war. But as the war was winding down, Bush was wrestling with this totally different, massive question. He wrote about it in the Atlantic Monthly. He basically asked, after we've built these unbelievable tools of destruction, what grand, peaceful challenge can all this scientific talent possibly take on for the good of all humanity? And Bush, he identified a problem that's going to sound incredibly familiar to us today: information overload. He saw a major crisis on the horizon, one he thought could literally stop human progress in its tracks. He called it a growing mountain of research. He warned that scientists were becoming so specialized, so buried in their own little fields, that they couldn't possibly keep up with what was happening anywhere else. Those crucial connections between different fields, they were getting lost. And the stakes here were huge. Bush was terrified that, as he put it, truly significant attainments become lost in the mass of the inconsequential. He brought up Gregor Mendel, whose pioneering work on genetics was totally ignored for over 30 years. Why? Because it just got lost in all the noise. So Bush is wondering how many other world-changing ideas are being lost right now. Now, Bush knew technology could solve the storage problem. He pictured compressing information onto microfilm on an incredible scale. Get this, he figured the entire Encyclopedia Britannica could be shrunk down to the size of a single matchbox. But just storing it all wasn't enough. The real trick was how to get to it in a way that actually made sense. So Bush's solution was this theoretical machine he called the Memex. The whole idea was that it would be a desk that would act as a powerful extension of a person's own memory. He defined it as a device in which an individual stores all his books, records, and communications. But this is the most important part. It is an enlarged, intimate supplement to his memory. That word intimate is everything. This wasn't some giant computer for a corporation. It was a deeply personal tool, designed to work exactly the way your own mind works. And the detail he imagined back in 1945 is just stunning. It was a desk, right? It had these see-through screens for looking at documents. It had a keyboard and a bunch of levers and buttons to zip through millions of pages of information stored on microfilm right inside it. You could even add your own stuff directly. Just put a note on a clear surface, hit a lever, and snap a picture of it right into the system. But as cool and futuristic as all that hardware was, that wasn't the real game changer. The true genius of the Memex was its completely new way of organizing information, a method that went way beyond the stiff, alphabetical filing cabinets of the past. See, at the very heart of his idea was this simple truth about our own brains. Bush wrote, "The human mind does not work that way," meaning by alphabetical indexes. It operates by association. And just think about it, right? One thought jumps to another, not because of the alphabet, but because they're connected in this incredible web of meaning in our heads. Bush wanted to build a machine that worked just like that. He called this process building an associative trail. So a user could pull up two related things on their screens. Then, with just a single tap, boom, they could link them together forever. A little bit of code would be inserted, creating this permanent thread between them. And from that moment on, they could instantly jump from one to the other, building out this trail of thought that they could follow, add to, and even share with someone else. So this one idea, this concept of associative trails, dreamed up in a world without computers, well, it's the direct ancestor of the digital world we all live in today. I mean, you can draw a perfectly straight line from his essay to the screen you're watching this on. In 1945, Bush describes these associative trails. Then, in the 60s, guys like Ted Nelson take the idea and give it a name, hypertext. Then, fast forward to 1989, Tim Berners-Lee uses hypertext on a global network of computers, and just like that, the World Wide Web is born. That little blue underlined link we can't live without? Yep, its DNA comes directly from the Memex. What's really wild is that Bush even predicted a new profession of trailblazers. He thought there would be people whose whole job was to create useful paths through that mountain of information for the rest of us to follow. And when you think about it, isn't that exactly what the best content creators, the expert curators, and all those dedicated Wikipedia editors are doing today? They are the trailblazers Bush saw coming. So, we built it. In our pockets right now, we have something way more powerful than the Memex could ever have been. We have the global library, the instant access, the associative trails, the whole shebang. But Bush's ultimate hope for all this was that his machine would help humanity grow in the wisdom of race experience. And that leaves us with one final, really important question. Is the internet we've built actually making us wiser?